Howdy, howdy, hey, welcome back to Trek on the Tube. It's once again time to talk about Star Trek Discovery. This time we're talking about Season 4, Episode 5, The Examples. This is my review and Easter eggs video. As usual, do beware, there are plenty of spoilers. Coming out of such a strong fourth episode, this season could really only do one of two things. Either go back to being quite bland, rather uninspired, or continue on this streak of goodness and further elevate the show by finally starting to use its true potential. Sadly, what we got was a bit more of the former. I know, I really want to like this show. I'm really trying. I know it may not seem like it, but yeah, I mean, much like Enterprise, you know, the show that came before it, it struggles not only with its own identity, but also with the world that it exists in. I mean, it also struggles with its characters. As I've always said, if Discovery is not an original series prequel, it sure as hell is an Enterprise sequel because it's inherited so much from that. Pros and cons, I mean even visually. Anyway, The Examples is not an example of an episode where everything goes wrong. It's not a failed pilot or a headache-inducing finale. It's not a plot hole-riddled denouement to something that was set up earlier. Rather, it's just a pretty oddly placed side quest that seems to want to be a filler episode. And although a lot of people actually quite enjoyed the whole concept of having a story of the week thing happening, within the context of Discovery, and especially within the context of, you know, this kind of season that we're having, I guess it bothered me. Filler episodes bother me, especially when these new seasons are not only so short, but also crafted from their very inception to tell a story that runs for the entire duration of that season. It's weird to have to go on these side quests. Funny thing is, though, everything Culber and Stamets at the moment is shining far above the rest. And Stamets in this episode in particular, with his new science pal there, actually felt like he was the only thing giving this episode, if not even the season, a little momentum. I mean, for real. The Discovery has to save a bunch of people stranded on a rock that's gonna get hit by an anomaly. Okay, yeah, that's pretty standard Discovery. So what's the twist? There are prisoners. The Society wants you to leave them there. I mean, honestly, on paper, it doesn't sound all that bad. It's just the way it's executed. At this point, it's tiring more than anything how intense everything is and how glorified the answers are when they find them. I mean, ask for asylum. Yeah, that's pretty standard. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess there's pretty much two ways of addressing this kind of story. On one hand, you have, I guess, the way that they used to address this in like The Next Generation or Voyager or Deep Space Nine, where you would look at the political implications of saving these prisoners, of them asking for asylum. You would kind of, I guess, discuss how that impacts these people's relationship with the Federation, with Starfleet, etc. And then you get the second way, which is what they're doing with Discovery, which is a much more emotional thing. You know, you dive into the kind of the troubles and the life and the struggle of an individual character, develop those sentiments, really swell the plot and the music, all about that. And yeah, I guess it really depends which is your jam. I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about this rescue mission main plot here. It was there. It was present. That, of course, concerns the main plot itself. I can, however, say something about the acting. Martin Green and Najala did a great job as usual. The other secondary guest stars were good also. But then there's this guy, the goddamn hero and saving grace of this whole story, Michael Greyeyes. Oh my goodness, what a performance. I mean, for starters, let me just clarify that I have seen him before, and he's never disappointed. I mean, in the miniseries Klondike, he killed it. Highly recommend you watch that, by the way. In True Detective Season 3, his performance was just as stellar as Mashallah Ali's. The fucking talent on that show, I highly recommend you watch that too. And then also, I saw my boy Greyeyes in Fear the Walking Dead. I mean, I don't recommend that unless you're willing to just watch the first 4 seasons, but I'm getting off topic. He was awesome in that also, and And I mean, he managed to bring such a presence, such a force of raw talent to this episode of Discovery that honestly elevated the material far higher than it ever should have been. This really is a case where one actor carried the story he was in. And if it weren't for him and some other less charismatic actor, or maybe someone not as talented or as experienced had been there in his place, I think it would have been very, very boring. So yeah, there's that. Not the strongest writing, but a big congrats to whoever's taking care of the casting. While we're still talking about the mission itself, I did want to say that all of these sets and all of the costumes, you know, that was all very, very good. Not the most inspired, I guess, visually speaking, but very effective. And yeah, the visual effects, I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty good. Strangely, with Discovery, I can tell when and where they're using the new digital green screen tech. Like, for example, here, you can clearly see this is a set in a studio, whereas with The Mandalorian, that only happens very rarely. I don't know what that's due to, and maybe it's just me, but yeah, I can tell. Regardless, it looks good. And regardless of all my plot-related issues, I will say that the directing was good as well, and the lighting was good as well, so things were at least visually, I guess, interesting in the way it was brought to screen. Thing is, they kind of switched it up with the color palette also. It wasn't completely blue this time around. There's still a lot of blue, because, you know, you gotta put that blue in there, but yeah, it was a bit different. I guess, visually speaking, though the sets and costumes, not so much. Anyway. Stamets. Stamets has now officially become a character that I'm invested in once again. He's no longer just Culber's love interest. I do honestly think it would make more sense to have him in Starfleet headquarters working on the new spore drive technology, but that's kind of addressed here. Lead scientist slash somewhat douchebag man never contacted him, so there you go. There's animosity, but also scientific curiosity leading their relationship. I mean, the obvious thing to point out is that Stamets doesn't like this guy because this guy is basically him from season 1, extremely sure of himself, very cocky, obnoxious, and just generally speaking annoying to be around. But having them work together on the anomaly was a great move. I really like their dynamic. I think the actors have chemistry. Good old Reno thrown into the mix added that extra spice. I love her dry wit, her deadpan humor, however you want to call it. It comes in, it punctuates these scenes with something lighthearted that we can all smile about. And then when you think about it, her character is useful in the sense that she brings us back to reality and helps us remember just how insane what everyone is doing. In conclusion, this isn't an episode that I despise, that I hate, that I loathe. It's kind of just an okay one. It certainly isn't an episode that I would have someone watch in order to try and convince them of the glory of our franchise. No, I don't think that would work. I would actually probably have them skip it. Maybe. But yeah, it's still a win because we got that Michael Grey Eyes performance that just blew me away, and also every single speck and morsel of Tig Notaro that we can get in this franchise. That's a win in my book. So yeah, I mean, the episode at least brings us that, so that's really cool. What did you guys think? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side. What do you guys think of this? Easter eggs and references, let's talk about that. This is the NSS T'Pau, and one of the others in the shot is the USS Janeway. T'Pau is this legendary Vulcan first seen in the original series that was later explored a little more in Enterprise. Janeway is, well, you know, that character that kind of inspired this holographic version of her that we see in the new show Prodigy. I mean, maybe she was a big deal, who really knows? The NSS T'Pau, by the way, is a ship class we've never seen before. It's probably both Vulcan and Romulan in the sense that it's a Nevari ship. One thing that's for certain is that its design was inspired by the design of the Vulcan ships seen in Enterprise and even later on in Discovery. This is Burnham's serial number. She said it before on the show and it's the same, so yay! Coherence and consistency. This Starfleet logo on the shuttle bay floor, however, is not the same as before. Our friend Yuck over on Twitter noticed it changing from one design to the other recently in episodes that are following each other, so boo! No consistency, no coherence. The Akali were first seen in Enterprise. They were not a warp-capable civilization back then, but they did already speak of Draylen, and their makeup was basically the same, so that's cool. Consistent design, but evolution in the story of the species, I love it. This is Horizon, or Ryzian, like, I don't know, someone from Ryza. I ran a poll on Twitter, but people seem to disagree. Again, the design hasn't changed much over the years. This is a Schlurm. No, not that. A Schlurm. That's a Slurm. These guys were originally designed and featured in Star Trek Beyond, so the first time we saw them was in the Kelvin timeline. The only difference between this guy and the Kelvin ones are the hands. Yes, that's right. As you can see, our Discovery guy seems to have, I guess, human hands under the gloves, or more humanoidish hands. The production explanation for that is that in order to limit prolonged contact between makeup artists and actors due to COVID, gloves were designed for the more peculiar looking aliens. Of course, we could just explain it away as Kelvin/Prime differences, or who knows, maybe this guy had his hands modified and he's an exception to his species. What do we know? We don't know anything about him. Stamets mentions the Jasep, those spore beings explored in earlier Discovery seasons. It's nice to actually address their existence once in a while. Admiral Vance name drops the Metrons seen in the original series, the Nassine, aka the Caretakers seen in Voyager, the Iconians, scratch that, he says specifically the surviving Iconians. What? The Iconians were people first introduced in the Next Generation as a very, very, very ancient and long extinct advanced civilization. So yeah, it's weird to hear the words surviving. From what I understand though, the game Star Trek Online has explored them a little further, but canon Star Trek has yet to actually bring them back or fully address that. I do remember, however, for a short while there thinking that the Red Angel was gonna be an Iconian, or at the very least, if it wasn't me, the theory was out there. The Q, Vance also mentions the Q, but also specifies there hasn't been contact in over 600 years, or something close to that, so yeah. And to finish this all off, take a look at this collage put together by Yerk, yet again, showing us how Discovery utilized Larry Nemechek's stellar cartography book. Apparently, there are a few omissions, which, I mean, those worlds could be gone, they could be destroyed, so that's fine. But there's also spelling mistakes. Though I guess planet names could change over time, you don't know. So yeah, that's all of it. I'm sorry for the slight negativity when it comes to the episode. In case you're wondering, from what I understand, a lot of people very much enjoyed this one. Like, it was refreshing for a lot of people. And yeah, I kind of agree to some certain extent. It's just that it's kind of with Discovery, you know? It's a good thing that my boy Grey Eyes was in this, because otherwise... Anyway, there you go. Like, subscribe, share, comment. What do you think about Discovery? What do you think about Discovery? Have you given up on it, or are you still watching this? I'm assuming you're still watching the show if you're watching my reviews, although you would be surprised. There's a lot of people that apparently watch these reviews just so that they don't need to watch the show. I love you all. Big thanks to the channel patrons. Live long and prosper.